Hello everyone, this is Mumbo here, welcome back, and today is another episode of High Low Tech, and in this one we're going to be taking a look at one of the most well requested designs over the past few videos, and that is of course the bud switch, formerly known as the block update detector. It essentially does what it says on the tin. It detects block updates. Now that can range from many things: ice melting, a block being placed, or an anvil going from broken to even more broken. These are incredibly useful mechanisms and you should definitely know how to build them, and that is what we're going to be taking a look at in today's episode. So let's begin. Now the first thing that you need to know about block update detectors is a little feature in Minecraft known as quasi-connectivity. Now that may sound a little bit complicated, but it is quite a simple concept. It essentially means a piston can be powered from this position or this position if you cause it a block update. So as you can see here, when we flick this lever, this block is now on but the piston hasn't extended, and that's a little bit odd. However, if we place down a block, we cause it a block update and then it will extend, and it's the same with retraction. So you can see we turn this off, it is off, the piston is still extended. However, if we take away this block, it then retracts because it realizes, oh, I'm not powered, maybe I should retract. And it's the exact same for this one over here. So we power it, the piston doesn't extend, we cause it a block update, it does extend, so it's realized it's powered, and then once again with the retraction, we turn this off, cause it a block update, and you can see it retracts just fine. And that is pretty much the mechanic that most bud switches rely on. I'm going to be doing this video in the order of vertical, horizontal, and then vertical downwards. And if I'm honest, I've probably done it in the wrong order because the first design that we're going to be looking at is probably the most difficult to explain, but here goes nothing. Here it is very simple, it is only one block wide and extremely compact and easy to remember. In terms of how it works, if you look back to that diagram that I showed you a couple minutes ago now, you'll remember that we had a block being powered and then the piston down below that hasn't realized it is powered yet. And if you look closely, then you can see that this is pretty much the same setup. We have got a block up here being powered, and then the piston, which just so happens to be facing upwards, is right here as well. So then if we cause it an update, you can see we get ourselves a very quick pulse, which obviously we can use inside redstone mechanisms. As I said a little bit earlier, it is extremely easy to build, just one block wide, and if you do want to build it, you should be able to see everything in this screenshot. There isn't anything hidden. For those of you who are wondering what this redstone torch is, it isn't actually necessary. However, I'm using it to invert the signal because this automatically comes out as an on signal, then when you give it an update it turns off. So this redstone torch just inverts that, and you can include that in your design, but it can be elsewhere. For example, it could be on this side or pretty much anywhere that you need it, to be honest with you, so you should be able to suss that one out. But anyway, here it is. You can grab your screenshots and that will show you how to build it. The second design that we're going to be taking a look at in today's video is of course horizontal, but it's also got some fairly interesting and very helpful characteristics about it. For example, it is completely flush with our wall. Of course, it does detect block updates, as you can see here, but it can also very easily be converted into a T-bud. So as you can see, all you have to do is just replace this redstone dust with a repeater, set it to 2 ticks and take out this repeater and replace it with redstone dust. So basically perform a bit of a switcheroo, and you can see when we place down the block, it now stays fully extended until we remove the block, in which case it retracts. Now that can be very useful as well. So to build this one, you want to get things started with a 2x4 area. You want to place a sticky piston facing in this direction with a block on its face. Obviously this is going to be our detector piston, and then down here you just want to place a redstone torch on this block, a piece of redstone dust, a block, and then another redstone torch, 2 blocks along like this, and these are going to run into the block, which of course is going to diagonally power our piston, if you remember that from the beginning. Now depending on which way you want it to do the old T-bud, you can do redstone dust and then repeater set to 2 ticks, and there we go. You can see you get your T-bud, and then if you want it the other way around, you just want repeater, set it to 2 ticks with redstone dust, and there we go. You've got yourself a standard bud switch. So that's that one done. Now this third and final design is arguably the most unique because it is vertically downwards but also flush with the floor, which means that we can't use any of those quasi-connectivity techniques that I discussed with you earlier, so I'm going to have to introduce to you something new. But first off, let's take a look at it in action. So we cause a block update and you can see a couple of things happen, and it looks a little bit weird, so let's do that again. Basically, this piston here is actually powered but it is not extending. When we cause it an update, of course it will extend, but then it will power this redstone, which turns off the piston. So at this point you think, yeah, you've got yourself a redstone clock, because that cycle will go round and round. The piston extends, turns it off, the piston retracts, and then it turns it back on, etc, etc. The piston will go like this. However, we have got this block over here which stops that from happening by extending just as this piston tries to extend, which means that that piston obviously can't extend, and then it sort of forgets that it's being powered and never extends again until you cause it a block update. So here it is, and there we go. So that is how it all works. Now you want to get things started with a 3x3 area, place a block slap bang in the middle with a redstone torch on top, and then a block on top of that. That is going to be your floor level, then a sticky piston facing downwards, and a regular piston facing across like this with a redstone torch right here. Now we're going to place all of the redstone down before we place the block, because otherwise you're going to end up with a redstone clock, and it is incredibly annoying. So you want to place redstone dust, repeater running into block, and a block over there, redstone dust here, and then another repeater, set it to 2 ticks, running into this piston. Then when we place down our block, you can see we have got ourselves our flush with the floor bud switch, and it is working like a charm. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I've got time for this week. This was one of the most requested topics when it comes down to high-low tech videos, so thank you for requesting it with all your might, because that is absolutely brilliant. If you wouldn't mind heading down to the comment section and placing down what you want to see next, then that would be greatly helpful. But if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that like button, and if you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been Mumbo, and I'm out. I'll see you later.